Good day and welcome back to Elementary 72 Gaming. Now, this is the Succubus, and here comes a bit of a weird ship overall. The Succubus is one of the more powerful vessels for you to use, and in terms of using the ship, the reason why it's so powerful is it has an overwhelming amount of defense. It's very good when it comes to playing in teams. And doing things solo, it is quite useful. However, there are certain drawbacks with this vessel. Everybody knows about the drawbacks. One of your mid slots is occupied by a shield field module. The shield field module increases the amount of damage you can take by quite a bit, because it does increase that defensive amount that you take in terms of damage. So let's look at the stats on the ship before we go any further into the discussion. Plus 20% laser damage per level, that's a 100% increase, another one similar to the Gamma. It's also the best match for the crew, right? And plus 37.5% laser tracking speed, exactly like the crew. Right, next thing, Afterburner velocity bonus, plus 20% per level, that's a 100%. This here will give you a 400% boost to your speed instantly while using an Afterburner. It also makes it very, very light in terms of what you're going to take off your grid, in terms of, not your grid, of your capacitor. Because you're getting that much of a boost, it makes it a very fast usage for the ship. Plus 5% shield. Now when you add this all together, it has a 25% boost to the shield. And this is something which makes a big difference, because with the shield field added, that's 60 plus 25, that pulls you all the way up to an 85% resistance. 100% resistance is basically immune to damage at the level of your damage. You don't take any portion of it unless it overwhelms you. Alright, overall defense, it's 4,699. This is amongst the toughest ships you can ever have. This 4,700 will be effectively like taking on a ship with about 16 to 18,000 defense. It is stronger than most cruisers. It can still be effective against cruisers in the faction class in the next class. That is a possibility with the ship because of its defensive stats. 5 AU warp speed, 414 meters per second flight velocity. The flight velocity on the ship isn't very spectacular, but it is a good enough speed for frigates. Moving down, we have a 96 megawatt power grid. Now that power grid is huge. 96 megawatts, when you put in all of the bonuses, this is going to have almost a 200 megawatt overall power grid if you pair it up correctly with the right items. Capacitor of 985 gigajoules. This here pushes it through the roof. If you use it on the ship, you are going to have an unbelievably powerful capacitor. 270 cubic meter cargo capacity. Right now, there's a lot of things which you can do to the ship, and I'm just going to go through it as fast as possible because there isn't that much that is new to this particular type of fitting. Lasers, we're not going to go for pulse. We're not going to go for beam. We're going to go for pulse. Okay, so the reason is, no, actually it's the opposite way around. We don't want to go for the pulse lasers, we want to go for the beam lasers to keep people out of the shield field. So you'd want the extra distance, although you are going to get the extra distance with this particular module. Okay, overall 39 megawatts out of the 200. There is actually not 200, it's 150 at standard increase. If you do put in any type of additional slots, it's going to go up to almost 200, because remember 30% of 1.5 will give you 45 per instant hit. So 45 plus 45 is 90 plus 150 will take you up to 245. That if you double power grid output the ship, which I don't see a reason for, to be honest, unless you're going to go for something crazy, which I might just do now. Okay, no, that's not the right one to go to. Shield field modules. You're not even going to pass this first level I think you can build B-type right now. I'm not 100% sure. I know we used to have something called Mirror. That was where we used to have our highest capacity. 7 megawatts, they're not that crazy. You don't want to go beyond the small. Now here's the thing with them. You see this effective resistance at the bottom, which is 41%. If we can go beyond Mirror to the class types, I would go with class B, because as you can see, it's 44% resistance when activated. That 44% plus your 25% will pull you up all the way to 69%. Plus add in something like a shield hardener, and your 69% becomes 101%. That means for someone to overwhelm you, your shield's capacity unit for resistance is anything that's in its capacity resistance. So if they hit your shield, which holds a point at 200 points, with a weapon that only does 139 to you on each hit, you will take 0 damage. If they hit you with a weapon that does upwards of 200 damage, you will take some damage, but a lot of it will be negated. Okay, so let's move on the rest of the slot. Okay, considering your range, a Nosferatu isn't too bad. It might be able to work. I'm just double checking with the range. 7.6. With everything that comes in from your research, you can pull it out just a little bit to about 10Ks. So yeah, it could be possible to use the Fulcrus on it. That's 9 megawatts. So 9 plus 9 is 18. You'll see that I haven't put on anything to tackle with the ship. That's because tackling with the ship isn't all that useful. You can tackle with it, to be honest. It's not going to hurt you, but you want the extra power grid on the ship when it comes to keeping it stable. If you don't, then you can just go with 1. That's going to push you up, as I said, 9. So 9 plus 1 is 10. 10 plus 7 is 17. 17 plus 39. We're not even anywhere close to the end of it, but nonetheless, that's 56 megawatts, and we have 40 megawatts for the next part, plus we can augment it however we want to. Now in this next level, the first thing we're going to go for is a hardener, and I'm doing this here intentionally so that we only put in that 1 megawatt. Remember, we're not yet at the end. We're at 56 megawatts. This will take it up to 57. B type, look at that, 37. We're over 100% on effective resistance. Right, next thing that we need is the Afterburner for this vessel. And you'll see what I mean by we can augment it to the max when it comes to the remainder slot. Looking at this particular slot, we're taking off 16 megawatts. That is 73 megawatts out of 150. We have so much left that we can go back to shield boosters, and we can fill everything into the shield booster at this point. I'm not even going to go with the small, I'm going to go with the medium B class. That's how much of power we still have left. This is taking it to overwhelming extremes. 58 megawatts doesn't fill what's left of the ship. We still have access on top of it. We haven't reached the limit of the vessel. 58 megawatts into this total, with a total recovery of 384 units each time we heal. Considering that we have a very text power grid, it's still worthwhile. It's going to be very efficient. When it comes to the hardener, it's taking the most amount of power. Along with the fact that we're recovering a lot of power, we're only going to be using the shield booster periodically. This ship effectively, if you are using it in battle, can be used up to a T10, right? That's for PvE. In terms of PvP, this ship is a fantastic ship to use in close range combat. The fact that its general output in terms of power is around 18,000 resistance means that you can't really push it to hold the defense for a full team. If you have a bigger ship than it inside your group, the firepower that hits that ship is going to break your shield instantly, because they can take upwards of 16,000 DPS from enemy fleets. So 16,000 into it, even if you're reducing it by 50%, is 8,000. That's more than your total shield capacity. It will knock out your shield and break a lot of your armor. So that is why you don't want to use it for shielding bigger ships. It will definitely affect the small vessel. Although it does reduce that damage even more, I think it's 20% of the total, but you still lose your shield instantly with a single hit. In terms of rigs, now understand that this ship is a bit different from the others in the way that I'm about to build it. In terms of engineering, auxiliary thruster, semiconductor control, and conductive memory. You're going to use those three because you want it to have a very stable capacitor. Even with 900 being its total capacitance, you're drawing 168 every time your shield activates. It's a heavy knock to your shield. Your afterburner is small. You're only recovering in small figures with your Nosferatu. Even if you double up the Nosferatu, you're not really recovering enough to make that big of a difference. And that is the thing about it. You could always switch to a small shield booster and keep it active non-stop throughout your fight. It won't make any difference to the prolonged survival in any battle. In terms of combat rigs, this is where things change a lot. Because the ship is so good at defense, you are going to do a capacitor reduction on shield regen. This is the only ship where I'm going to do this here, because if you reduce it by 25%, that means that massive figure that you worried about every time you activate is going to take a massive knock. The second thing you're going to do is you're going to increase the amount of shield that you're receiving with each recharge. That means you can recharge 50% with a single recharge instead of 29% or 30%. That's 20% extra with the same cost in capacitor. Plus you've already reduced capacitor figure. And you're going to increase your firepower with your lasers as your last resort. You could always double the capacitor reduction so that you can activate this even more, but without that additional firepower, your ship isn't that far in the lead. You aren't going to have ridiculous firepowers from this vessel. It is going to tick off enemies very slowly, and it is going to be an annoying fight for most of it. You're using these small things to augment the fact that you don't have a huge ship. So yeah, that's everything that I have for this vessel. With your complete speed at the end, you're looking at about a 1,200 meter per second flight velocity on your standard afterburners. With the B class, you're looking at around a 1.5 to 1.6. That is good enough to reduce more than 50% of your damage off in an instant. That is from at least one class above you. If you're looking at cruisers, battle cruisers, and battleships, you're reducing it by massive figures. You'll only be taking figures in the tens. And that will be almost completely negated by your shield field module, which runs on plasmoids. So yeah, that's everything to do with the ship. I hope that you all did enjoy. Catch you all in the next.